Australia, a nation that prides itself on multiculturalism, has witnessed a disturbing surge in hate speech and acts of intolerance. This alarming trend has left many communities, particularly the Jewish community, feeling vulnerable and targeted. Anti-Semitic incidents, once considered fringe occurrences, have become increasingly frequent and brazen. Synagogues, once sacred spaces of worship, have been desecrated with hateful graffiti. Jewish Australians have been subjected to verbal abuse and threats, both online and in public spaces. The fear is palpable, casting a shadow over the lives of ordinary citizens. The escalation of hate-driven incidents has shaken the nation's conscience and exposed the urgent need for a robust response. The Australian government, recognizing the gravity of the situation, has taken decisive action by introducing comprehensive legislation aimed at combating hate speech and protecting vulnerable communities. In February 2025, the Australian Parliament passed the landmark Criminal Code Amendment, Hate Crimes, Bill 2024. This legislation represents a significant step forward in the fight against hate speech and aims to deter future acts of intolerance. The new law expands the existing legal framework by including sexual orientation, gender identity, and intersex status as protected attributes. This means that any act of hate speech or discrimination based on these attributes is now explicitly prohibited. Furthermore, the law criminalizes threats of violence based on protected attributes and bans the public display of hate symbols, including Nazi imagery. The inclusion of mandatory minimum sentences for offenses such as displaying hate symbols, 12 months, and financing terrorist groups, 3 years, underscores the government's commitment to tackling this issue head-on. The Criminal Code Amendment is not merely symbolic legislation. It is a powerful tool designed to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions and create a safer, more inclusive society for all Australians. The introduction of the new anti-hate speech laws has been met with mixed reactions from the Australian public. While many have welcomed the government's proactive stance, others have expressed concerns about potential overreach and its impact on free speech. Community leaders and organizations, particularly those representing minority groups, have largely praised the legislation as a necessary step to protect vulnerable communities and promote social harmony. Macquarie University's decision to create a safe room for Jewish students speaks volumes about the level of concern and the need for tangible measures to address it. However, critics, including Sydney Mayor Clover Moore, have raised concerns that the law's broad language could stifle legitimate political dissent and have a chilling effect on free speech. They argue that the line between hate speech and protected speech can be blurry, and that the law's implementation requires careful consideration to avoid unintended consequences. Australia's new anti-hate speech laws are part of a global trend toward combating online and offline hate speech. Countries around the world are grappling with the challenge of balancing free speech with the need to protect individuals and groups from hate-motivated harm. Germany, for example, has strict laws prohibiting Holocaust denial and the display of Nazi symbols. France allows for the prosecution of individuals for public insults based on religion, race, ethnicity, or national origin. While the effectiveness of such laws in curbing hate speech remains a subject of debate, they reflect a growing international consensus that hate speech is a dangerous phenomenon that must be addressed. The true impact of Australia's new anti-hate speech laws will only become clear over time. However, the legislation represents a significant step towards creating a more inclusive and respectful society where everyone feels safe and valued. Striking a balance between free speech and the protection of vulnerable communities is a delicate but essential task in a democratic society, and Australia's efforts in this regard will be closely watched by the world.